you see it? Can you see it?
I'm on the page.
Find it. You find it on your page. I'm waiting for a few people to come in, I guess. That's what they usually say, right? Good afternoon. Welcome to the Servant Leader Speaks. I am Ali McIntosh. Today is May 1st, 2020, May Day. May Day in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, May Day all across the world. What do we have to celebrate? There is a lot of recognition that should be. And today, May 1st, as I say, International Workers' Day. And we're going to talk a little about that. What does that mean to the workers specifically in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? In fact, indeed, globally. We will also talk about the issue yesterday, Americans being able to come into the Commonwealth of the Bahamas bearing gifts. And does that show duplicitousness on the part of the government? Are they saying and practicing what they preach, while Bahamians are still stuck all over the world, particularly in the United States of America, cannot come home? So we're going to talk about that, but we will talk about May Day. We want to just be able on this first day of May to register what we feel and what people are saying. And I would like to welcome those who are joining us. Wendy Rouse all the way from Alabama. I saw, I think, Linda Nairn and some others are joining us. We do appreciate you coming to us today. I am happy to have producer today. Tisha Knowles is with me, and so I can have a more coordinated show without so much interruption. But before we get there, let's whisper a word of prayer, as we always do, invite the presence of God in our conversation today. Father, we thank you for this day, May Day, fresh beginning of this season. I pray that the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart will be acceptable to you, who is my strength and my redeemer. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, welcome back. For those of you who are joining us, I'm going to need the aid of my computer today, so please bear with me. I will be looking to the right, to the left, as we talk about the issues of today. May 1st, 2020, May Day. As I said before, we are in a unprecedented time in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas based on COVID-19 and this pandemic. There are two things that we want to recognize on today, May 1st. In fact, May 1st has two recognitions, and I will talk about it. First, May 1st, the recognition of the changing of the seasons. Someone quoted, April showers bring or produces May flowers. April showers produces May flowers. Well, we know April did not have much rain in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but we still have flowers. In fact, from my backyard farming, I have cantaloupes that are growing, spinach that are growing since the last week or two. I hope that your backyard farming is producing something, and it is important to be able to do that. And so that was just a side. But the point is, April showers produce May flowers. Some people are not getting their things to be produced, but if you had any rain, thank God for your flowers. But let's go back to the topic of May Day. Please forgive us. We are in the middle of traffic on a shutdown, lockdown. The traffic is amazing. It's amazing that the traffic never stops moving around here. I wonder if we are still in lockdown, but nevertheless we are. So let's talk about May Day. There are two recognitions. First, the changing of the seasons, as we've said already. And the second May Day is the recognition of international workers. Now, for some of you who do not know or may not know, in the 1800s, the workers of the world, including the United States, fought for 8-day week, and 40-hour work week. 8 days, 8-hour work days and 40-hour week. This accomplishment has given workers dignity and solidarity to be able to go to work, to put food on the table of their families, and knowing that this equitable system of labor, of the labor force, governed by and monitored by the International Labor Organization and the laws that govern it, would take care of them. They believe that this would be able to ensure that their tenure, or after their tenure, whether it's permanent or it's temporary, they would be able to be taken care of. That's part of what the workers fought for over a century and a half ago. But my fellow Bahamians, as a result of this COVID pandemic, according to our last records, more than 70,000 Bahamians, and increasing every day, are unemployed. They have no way to feed their families. This is not just happening in the Bahamas. This is happening across the world, in the United States. I mean, it was said that unemployment is almost at recession levels. That is an amazing thing. But today, May 1st, this is the recognition of International Workers' Day. One thing is a concern is that the vast majority of Bahamians have less than $1,000 in their savings at any moment, at any time, which means once this pandemic hit, most of them had to go to NIB or social services. And for those of you who are listening from other places other than Bahamas, NIB is the National Insurance Board, sort of like Social Security in the United States. But they had to go in order to assist them through this temporary situation. But what I am sad to think about is that even when the economy reopens, many businesses will not return. Many persons will be unemployed permanently. That will reduce the gross domestic product in this Bahama land. What is even sadder is that the government of the Bahamas is indebted through loans and obligations, has tied up the economy to up to 75 to 85%, which has barely left 15 to 25% of the economy in terms of equity and liquidity. I'm saying that because the debt to GDP ratio is around 70%, which shows that the national debt is over $9 billion in this economy, which is touted to be around $12 billion. While we speculate on the latest figures in regard to the central bank regarding the national debt, the state of foreign reserves at this point, which was touted by the minister, they believe that the central bank has agreed with the Minister of Finance, is that they can see, based on this pandemic, more borrowing. This position about borrowing is also agreed by the Progressive Liberal Party. They believe that we should borrow between $1 to $2 billion. And I will say it, between $1 billion and $2 billion, we are talking about 1,000 million. That's just the scope of how much money when they are estimating $1 to $2 billion. I believe that this mentality and perspective to throw money without looking at the concept of reorganizing is a cocked eye concept. I'm saying all this to draw your attention to the financial plight of this nation and the position that the Bahamian worker is now in. When I said earlier that more than 70,000 Bahamians are unemployed, and when the economy reopens, according to the Director of Labor, we will possibly be at 50% unemployment. What are we going to do? As we know, 50% unemployment is really massive. It's going to cause a great deal of problems. But the plight of the Bahamian worker is in peril. As we celebrate and recognize International Workers' Day, the plight of the Bahamian worker is in peril. But now, even as we see the National Insurance Board funds are dwindling, as they have indicated that they have paid almost $16 million out already in benefits and would have to pay somewhere in the vicinity of $5 million a week. we have found that there is a major problem. And I see our chairman, Dwayne Hyler, just coming on board. We have discovered earlier in the week a very serious major problem. And that relates to greed, selfishness, and misappropriation. And we are talking about that in the general sense and to be specific. Because laborers, employers are going to work and they're working every day. Their national insurance contribution are being taken out by their employers, and it's not being paid to the National Insurance Board. So we have a government, I'm just going to regress to bring you to a point. We have a government whose mindset is to borrow and spend. And many of the companies do the same. That's why they've cheated their workers by taking out national insurance benefit and not paying it to the National Insurance Board. So it's really misappropriation and stealing by employment for a company to take national insurance contribution from the employee and do not pay it to the National Insurance Board, which they have not done. In many cases, we have heard that there are international companies, there are local companies, very big companies who have not paid national insurance. There's a company on Paradise Island, a hotel, Warwick. I'm going to call the name. We heard about Fusion. It's another big company. They have not paid for their national insurance contribution for their employees. Other companies, we are hearing it every day, and you can confirm that for me, Mr. Chairman. Every day we are hearing companies who have not paid national insurance. So what that does for the worker? When these companies do not pay national insurance contribution, they are left between a rock and a hard place with nothing to take home. Employees are being told by national insurance that they have no benefits to get because they were not paid by their employers. My fellow Bahamians, today, May Day, the International Day of the Worker, there is nothing to celebrate in regards to that in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Although we have this new season, we have nothing to celebrate regarding the workers. The unemployment is out of the roof because of COVID-19, because of the shutdown. And then what is happening is many laborers or employees cannot get benefits because their employers have not done anything. And what is even more sad is that the government of the Bahamas is quiet on this issue. The government of the Bahamas is almost a slap on the wrist for some people, because how are we going to deal with this? How is the employers or the employees who have to feed their children, put food on the table, pay their rent, pay their bills, are going to be handled when there is no benefits to get? But guess what? On May Day, what I like is that this is a new season. This season, and I will repeat the statement, that April showers have given us May flowers. And that is because today, May 1st, the day of reckoning that the mindset of greed, selfishness, and misappropriation is over. I just want to note that. Greed, selfishness, and misappropriation is over. Not just for the employers in this country who have not paid national insurance for their workers, but even the work of the government. We are seeing it. It is being questioned all over the country. Is the government doing the right thing? People are still waiting for national insurance benefit. People have gone to the bank, have been given an email that their benefits are there. It's not there. What is the government doing? So in both instances, today, May 1st, mark a day of reckoning that the mindset of greed, selfishness, and misappropriation is over, has to be over. We have to make a determination. How do we move to the next place? I am sure many persons is getting their national insurance benefit, but many are not. Many are still waiting. Many have been stuck in the system, in the queue, because of what I discussed earlier, is that the employers have not been paying for national insurance. I see someone from national insurance on board, so I'll be glad if they wish to respond. But I wish to say that as we go forward May Day, as we recognize today, May Day is a day of reckoning, that this mindset of greed, selfishness, and misappropriation in every environment in the country has to come to an end. Also, Mayflowers also represents a day of moral authority, a day of compassion, a day of collaboration. One gone, one is here. The chairman of the party, Dwayne Hyler, is on the thread. He is mentioning, before we go to the next place, Warwick Hotel workers have been waiting 6 weeks and have received no benefit since we last checked. Now, our chairman is a research man, and he's making contact with the workers. There is no benefit that have been paid for the majority of the workers at the Warwick Hotel on Paradise Island. We are calling names today. It's called name and shame. Other companies are doing it. Once we get that information, we'll be glad to just find out what's going on with these companies. As I said, this day of reckoning is here, May Day, and this day of moral authority, compassion, is also here. And I'm saying that because we're going somewhere with this discussion. All that we have seen in the nation to date is changing. It has to change. It is going to change because the Bahamian people are waking up. The Bahamian people are tired of all that we have spoken about. And my fellow Bahamians, for an eternity in Bahamian politics, an eternity, and in particular the last 28 to 30 years, the people have been given a dream that has taken them down this road of indebtedness, high indebtedness, to the foreign element, and have threatened our way of life and sovereignty and our national security. I talked about it earlier, about the high debt, about the desire for the government, the desire for the opposition to borrow more money when our liquidity or equity in the economy is anywhere between 15 to 25%. We have a national debt of over $9 billion. Our economy is only touted at $12 billion. So if we are going to borrow $2 billion more when we have that little bit of equity in the economy, we must be talking something that makes no sense. So what we need to be doing is something else. Let's talk a little bit again, go back to our presentation. Both the governing both the governing FNM, Free National Movement, and the opposition PLP has consented to your imprisonment and your journey back to being bondsman to the foreign investor, and have facilitated and overseen the management of your labor being exploited and your lives being frustrated by deprivation. I'm saying that for all I've said already. You have foreign and local companies who have not paid national insurance contributions for the worker, and the worker now has no way to get anything. They have consented. They've watched it happen. Many of these companies refusing to pay national insurance for years. For the Bahamian worker, leaving national insurance cash-strapped, impoverished. In fact, our deputy leader, our shadow minister for economic development and finances, Cornelius McKinney, has given me recently his assessment of where we are with national insurance. When we were at the point, and this is aside, when we were at the point of 25, I think about 18,000 people unemployed, when we were at the point of 18,000 people unemployed, national insurance would have been able to survive all the way up to next year, 2021, September 2021. But now we have over 70,000 people unemployed. That fund it will not last forever. It will not last forever. In fact, with a doubling of unemployment, it simply means the fund will last shorter than it intended. Got some activity going on on the property. But I do want you to understand, when these companies, local and international, do not pay national insurance benefit, we have a problem for the economy going forward. It's not just a matter of not paying national insurance contribution. We're talking about how the economy will fare when the benefits are not paid. I will go back to repeat the charge, an indictment, misappropriation of funds, stealing by reason of employment. That's what employers do when they take national insurance benefits from employers and do not pay it to the government, do not pay it to the National Insurance Board. Because whenever something happens like this COVID-19 pandemic and persons, the country is shut down and persons have to go to national insurance for help, there is nothing to get. That obviously makes me a little upset. I'm a little upset. I am much upset. The Bahamas Constitution Party is very upset, and that's why we're looking into it and being able to bring this presentation today to find out, to ask the government, what will you do? Where will we go with this? How are you going to deal with these companies who will not pay, have not paid, refuse to pay, and now at this emergency where everybody has lost their job, I mean at least 70 to 80% of the population has lost their job, more like 70,000 or 80,000 persons. What are they going to do when there is no help? We are sorry that this is such an unresponsive government. I discussed that already. The handling of these belligerent companies, whilst the workers are crying for money to buy food, they have to line up in thousands in order to get money for vouchers that will not even provide food for a week. I am feeling this. People sometimes have a problem that when we have compassion and we feel people's problem. I work with organizations like Women United and many other women's organizations where women and their children have been put out, and we have to find a way. And we have been doing it among those organizations like FOAM and all of the other organizations associated with Women United and many other organizations. We find a way to help persons in these kind of problems. Because why? There is no way for them to have anything else. Now, my fellow Bahamians, at this time in our precarious and uncertain future, this visionless F&M government, led by our Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, and the equally blind opposition, the Progressive Liberal Party, led by the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, both with no moral authority, has agreed together to bring plans before you to further this state of affairs with the suggestion that we borrow more money and that we just spend it on what is happening. But we have to have plans. We have to have strong economic, aggressive plans when we have forced austerity like we do today, like we do in this COVID-19. For the past 3 decades, under the leadership of both the F&M and the PLP administration, we have been paying basically only our interest on the national debt. I'm saying that because in 1992, when Sir Lyndon Pinner left office, the national debt was barely above $600,000. The debt to GDP was 21%. So over the last 28 to 30 years, since 1992, the F&M and the PLP has borrowed money left, right, and center to everyone who was lending. They have indebted us all over the place. Somehow, this government or these governments over the last 28 years have been operating like a college student, a broke one too, only paying the basic minimum on a maxed out credit card while continuing to use up the leverage of credit there is. Now you know about that. For those of you who are only paying basic minimum on a credit card, every time there's a $50 become available in credit, you go ahead and spend that. But guess what? Sooner or later, the chicken would come home to roost and someone will have to pay the piper. My fellow Bahamians, the chicken has came home to roost. And soon we will be unable to pay the piper, as it is he who is knocking on our door. I wish to advise you that if this nation continue to go down this road that this group of leaders wishes to take us, we will end up where we don't want to go. And that is a place of absolute insolvency. The place of insolvency, my friends, is a place where there is no more money to be spent and certainly no more to be borrowed. No credit, so you can't borrow. A place of insolvency is where equity have been spent and your liability has mounted up. Thank you for those who are joining me. It is a place where those who have loaned you money will come, take the roof over your head, and will take your children off to pay your debt. When this is all you can hope for, it is time to seek new leaders, new managers. You need new vision. You need new day. Today is May 1st. Today is that day that you must make this decision. May Day, May Day, May Day. We see it. Whenever a vessel begins to go down and they've tried all they can to get the water out of the boat, or they can't find a way to control the plane, that's what they say. May Day, May Day, May Day. No more hope. Because somewhere we expect when we go down, somebody's going to find us. But the Bahamian people have a choice to make. The Bahamian people can decide now to turn around 180 degrees and go in the next direction. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of lockdown. We're in the middle of one of the worst places we've ever been in the nation for a long time. And I know people don't want to talk about politics, but politics has gotten us where we are today, going behind leaders who are taking us down that road. Today, my fellow Bahamians, let me offer you a new plan. A new plan that has been in waiting for the Bahamian people for 22 years. A new plan you rejected 2007, 2012, 2017 because it wasn't attractive enough. It wasn't charismatic enough. It wasn't funded enough. However, we decide that this plan, this organization, the Bahamas Constitution Party, has stood the test of time and has survived every agenda to destroy it and has weathered every storm over the past 22 years since 1998 to bring the Bahamian people an agenda for good governance with all the elements of equity, justice, and fair play. A plan that is needed when we get to a place like where we are of failed governance. That's where we are, May 1st, May Day, today, 2020. But this plan by the Bahamas Constitution Party is a plan for collaboration of bold, visionary, creative men and women, young and not so young, who will work for you with moral authority, compassion, and selflessness. This plan for governance, for constitutional democracy, this plan for a public system of governance with truly independent sovereignty, which extols the rule of law, giving value to all who bring substance and providing a merit-based honor society with participation of the equal proportion of both men and women. Many people have their plan and all they want is all men. It can't happen. God wants men and women to be part of this agenda to change the nation. Somebody's writing, God used a crisis to promote Joseph. He will do the same. Amen to that. We need both men and women to come to the table to build economic recovery for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We need both men and women to be to the table to make decisions for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas going forward for us and our children. This plan will provide a new kind of governance structure that provides criteria for national leadership, promoting ethics laws and an integrity commission to oversight those being engaged at all levels of leadership in the society, both elected and appointed. This system put partisan politics as a secondary principle to the national best interest, removing the systemic prejudice and practice of hiring only our party cronies. Wow. It's about time we go to the next level. This plan by the Bahamas Constitution Party, a plan that has an aggressive agenda for food security, to develop farming, agribusiness, livestock, and fisheries as industry all across the Bahamas, the Bahama Islands, every island. A plan that will subsidize food security industries to the tune of $300 million over the first 5 years of our administration, producing food for consumption here in the Bahamas and for export wherever they will purchase them. Our motto for this: what we cannot grow, what we can grow, we will not import. Let me say that again. What we can grow, we will not import. we will only import what we cannot grow. But these are good soils here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We can grow almost anything. We just have to provide the opportunity and make available the adjustment in all of those islands to make sure we have potable water to grow what we need. I have in my backyard dozens of seedlings for cantaloupe. It's growing. Spinach, it's growing. These things can grow in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I suggest to you who are planting, like me, I did not know if I had green thumbs, but I planted, and all I did was prayed while I was planting. Father, please let them grow. And I have a whole row of spinach that are growing. Cantaloupes, I mean, we're talking about almost 100 trees that has sprung. So we have to do what we have to do for backyard farming. And until the government has a responsibility and an agenda like the BCP, then you must grow. Because guess what? Let me get right to that point. On page 41 of the F&M manifesto, all of the plans for farming was there. None has come to fruition. They have not forwarded any of them. Only because we have this crisis, the Ministry of Agriculture has jumped into work to start now to do some farming. The farmers that they ducked, that they avoided, they are now calling them to see if they can help with food security. That is not how a government should be. A government should have cooperation and subsidize their farmers. Every developed country subsidize their farmers. Thank you, Laura McIntosh. She says Joseph, as the leader for those times, rested in a spirit, because that's the time. That's the kind of agenda we must have. Not only must we grow, we must store so that we can have products, so that if at any time we need to close our borders like we are doing now, we will have supplies in-house. Andros is our big cash cow when it comes to growing. Everything is growing on Andros. We have mud. We have mud that we can make things with in Andros. We have fish. We have sardines. We have mackerel. We have every kind of fruit growing in Andros. Coconut galore, we could call it. It's all there. But it requires vision and an agenda of both men and women to create agenda for this. I'm going somewhere. In fact, this plan that the Bahamas Constitution Party have is a plan and a people and a leadership that has the political will to take control and nationalize all our natural resources for the benefit of all Bahamians, bringing to fruition a sovereign wealth fund with money in it that will better the lives of every Bahamian, improving infrastructure in every nook and cranny of this nation. We can't have Nassau over with much more infrastructure, and Auckland and Cat Island and those places don't have any. We are going to make sure with the Sovereign Wealth Fund that we cause to be produced in every island infrastructure, so if people want to leave Nassau and go back home, they can do so. We in the Bahamas Constitution Party, we have an agenda to make that happen. This plan will also cause to be produced new industries for our natural resources, owned and operated by Bahamians, with concessions and tax breaks. We are not just going to give foreigners tax breaks. Bahamian companies must have it. We want to be able to realize full employment throughout these islands, and forcing us to have to hire expats to come here to work. So Bahamas will be the new contract where people come for 6 months, work and go back home. They can see how they can come, work, and go back home, feed their families. In other places does not have this. One of those new industries, and I better take my breath. Hallelujah. One of our new industries, I'm preaching this morning to pairs. One of our new industries is a company or manufacturer making plastic containers for what the BCP wants and foresee is a massive national recycling program. We will lift the ban on plastic. We will lift the ban on plastic because this idea is very minimal and it doesn't have a great vision in terms of going forward. What we will do instead is enforce laws for recycling of plastic. So when we recycle plastic, we have to keep using plastics. We can't all use cans for manufacturing of food. But we have to recycle. We have to be responsible in recycling plastic because it can be used in reusable containers and it also can be used in roadworks, strengthening our infrastructure on these islands. These are only some and sample of the plans that the BCP leadership has planned for the betterment of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Bahamas Constitution Party is the leadership, and we will provide you with the plans in the days and months ahead. That plan is Mandate 2020-2022, the BCP Blueprint for Governance in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. However, you can go online now and see snippets of our new platform, bcpparty.org, www.bcpparty.org, snippets of our new platform for governance. We will not release the plan until later in the campaign. Our shadow minister of economics, economic development and finance, the visionary Cornelius McKinney, has spearheaded this project and has magnified what vision, creativity, and knowledge really does. He gives God the credit for giving him all of those ideas. So we have put all of our ideas together to be able to produce a new agenda for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Bahamas Constitution Party is hope for Bahamaland, and hope is here. 21 years we have stood the test of time. You can go to our website, bcpparty.org, and see our snippets. And if you want to be a part of this agenda of the BCP that expects to win the next government, we want you to give us a call. Go online. You can call us from our numbers, our emails online. We are now recruiting. We have been gathering some very visionary people, passionate people, compassionate people who are prepared to work. Some people call it emotionalism, but it's not emotionalism when you see mothers on the street with their children and you want to make sure they have a house for them to live in. It's not emotionalism when you see people losing their jobs and they have no benefits to get. It is simply compassion. And yes, these ideas can be created to what God has given to us. Discretionary leadership, discretionary wisdom, we call it. It is here. The Bahamas Constitution Party. You don't have to wait no more. It is here. And if you want to be part of this plan, we are ready to give the Bahamas what it is they need in the vision and the agenda of the Bahamas Constitution Party. So we're taking men and women, and we expect to put 50% men and women, 50% men and women on the ballot as best we can. We want men and women to be at that table and make good decisions. We need some compassionate, emotional decisions, and we also need some strong power decisions. You know, let me tell you a little revelation I got. What kind of time we have? Looking at the time, don't want to run out of time. In July 2017, I was finishing a book that is getting ready to come out. And the Lord gave me a vision. He says, men governed by power and women by order. Which is why we need both women and men at the table. Because we need both order and power to be part of the agenda of the decision making. For those who think that they're going to be able to govern with all men, it's not going to happen. And those who think you can govern with all women, it's not going to happen. And you can't govern a nation with 18 or 19 men and one woman. That does not make a cabinet of sense. You have to govern with both men and women who are prepared to do the right thing for Bahamian people. There's one thing we want to put on the table. We want to make sure there is full employment. Because people don't have to come beg us as politicians for a little bit of bread, and a little bit of soup, and a little bit of noodles. Noodles, I can't stand it. We can make noodles here in the Bahamas, so we don't need that sodium-packed noodles that we've been buying from China. They don't need to come to us as politicians for us to go around dropping off bags of food if we give them a job. Every Bahamian should have a job. In a BCP government, we will make certain that there are industries so that every Bahamian will have a job. If you're just coming on when this is over, go back and look at the program. We talked about a lot of things. Hi, Ali, Curry. See people coming in from Abaco. That's our desire. We don't want to make brownie points by going out giving bags of food to people unless they are indigent and they can't get up, or old people who can't get out. The BCP wants to make sure every working person, every person who can work, have a job. That's our agenda. And we will accomplish that by God's help to make sure that is done. Just so that we can develop this nation. So that everyone can live in dignity, feed their children, send them off to school. That's what we want. And as before we close, I just want to tell you about something happened yesterday. And I'm saying this only so you can understand what we're dealing with as a nation in terms of leadership. Yesterday, the Minister of Health indicated that he allowed 2 American permanent residents in the country because they were donating some supplies. However, as we know, we're locked down in our homes. The airport is supposed to be shut. But he allowed them in. He said he made that decision to let them come in. Now they came in and they were donating supplies. They said test kits. Those kits wasn't that urgent because we have only tested little under 1,300 persons, and I'm told we have at least 10,000 or 25,000 kits. So those 2,500 kits that were brought in by those persons yesterday or day before yesterday was not so urgent that we needed to break every law in order to do it. But nonetheless, the Minister of Health said that he made that decision to do it and let them in. They sent them home to self-quarantine, and then the government tested them the day forward. I'm saying that because we are now in a shutdown. The borders are closed, and it was said based to us that no plane is to land except the competent authority says it's okay. So did the competent authority agree to this? Did he agree with the minister, or the minister took it upon himself? If the minister took it upon himself and did not consult the competent authority, then the minister should be fired. Dwayne Sands should be fired in the middle of the COVID-19. Only reason is because they're not prepared to obey the law that they're asking us to obey. If Dwayne Sands, Dr. Dwayne Sands, did so, he should be fired on the count of not obeying the competent authority. So the question is, did the competent authority agree to this? Because like someone says, it was not urgent, 2,500 was not urgent. And you know why this is important? Because we have hundreds of Bahamians in the United States wanting to come home and can't come home. They're still questioning whether they should let them come. How you could question whether you could let Bahamians come home, and if they come home, they're going to be under mandatory quarantine with Defense Force officers watching them for 14 days. But yet, and if I may, and yet you allow visitors to come in, and because they bring 2,500 swabs, which we don't need, to come in and get to go home to your house and enjoy your house while you're threatening Bahamians that if they do not test negative, they are not going to be allowed to come home. What kind of government? Where is your compassion? Where is your soul, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister of Health? I can say this because I have a brother in Miami, practically was living on the street because he could not get home, running out of money. So I'm not just talking this. There are many persons who have stories. And if we are going to be bribed for these little things, this is the kind of government, according to the day, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. They need to go. It's time for them to go. And the Bahamian people has to decide for themselves what they're going to do. We can keep the people who makes decisions for their friends, but not for your children. Or we can decide that we are going to do what is best for us as a nation. And we can't wait till next year. We can't wait till 2022. Because if we do, we won't have a country. Just let me take a little breath so you could understand. We will not have a country if we wait. So I thought to come here today, May 1st, and say, for the nation of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Mayday! 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 It's time for Bahamians to be first, have first priority, to be the ones who have the first benefits of this little nation. There is a plan. In fact, there is a wonderful plan for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And as I always say, as I wrap up, but before I wrap up, the people have a choice to make. But God has a plan for this Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And the Bahamas Constitution Party has that plan, has those proposals, has that agenda to bring to you, the Bahamian people, a comprehensive plan for you and your children and grandchildren to prosper. I'm Ali McIntosh, the servant leader of the Bahamas Constitution Party. On behalf of my leadership, we're ready to serve and to govern on day one. When the time is right, give us a choice. Make us your choice. And there will be a new day in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And with that I say, may God bless and keep safe the people and the nation of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Good afternoon, everyone.